in the stories from many different persuasions, the symbol of the staff is used. So the question that's posed and has been posed is, what does this symbol of the staff represent for us when it's been suggested that every character, every symbol and every archetype is an aspect of ourself? So the question is, what does this staff represent for us? There's a reminder of several stories to put into our pot as it's stirred up by the wonderful energies of our environment. The first is that story about the Zen master Hakuin. It was that time when the shogun had been given a small monkey as a gift, and he loved to see this monkey cavort around his throne room. So there was an occasion when he invited all his samurai lords, because at that time the samurais were the lords of the land. So he had a great reception and invited his leading lords. But he also invited his Zen master, Hakuin, to the reception. But after the feasting, to play, the shogun challenged his samurais to catch his little monkey. And the little monkey led them a merry dance, the samurais running here and there, but the monkey always evaded them. In fact, he would hide up the robe of the shogun or down his sleeve. And this went on for some while until the shogun got very angry that these great lords of his could not even catch a little monkey. So he ceased this experiment, and he turned to his Zen master Hakuin and said, would you try? And Master Hakuin just stepped forward with his staff in his hand, and he raised his staff above his head, and immediately the monkey cowered down in submission. Afterwards, the shogun said, "How did you do that? The greatest of my samurai lords could not catch this monkey. How did you do that?" And the Lord Hakuin said, "Well, you see, great Lord, the monkey knew that I was not afraid to hit you." The second story is that story of the very old man who was of the Jewish faith. He'd led a long and a very hard life, but he always followed his faith. He gave alms wherever he could. His wife was long since gone, and now he lived only on the charity of his neighbors. But then, one evening, when he was in his house, lighting his candle, pouring his glass of wine, and about to break the bread that had been given to him, when there was a knock on the door. And when he opened the door, there was an old man with a long beard, long hair, and a cloak. And the old man invited the other old man in. But this old man happened to be the great prophet Elijah. Now, our old man invited Elijah to share his bread and his wine, and they had some fine conversations. The old man invited him to stay for the evening, and Elijah did so. The old man setting up a blanket in front of his fire for his guest. In the morning, as Elijah was taking his leave, he turned to the old man and said, "For your hospitality, I give you my staff." And he handed the old man the staff that he'd been leaning on when he arrived. Now, a few days later, the old man was out in the streets, walking to town as he did each day to visit the people who would give him his daily bread and offerings. But it so happened the staff got stuck in a stone on the road, and when he bent down to release it, there in the crevice was a silver coin. He was able to share with those who had been so gracious to him. Not long afterwards, a group of marauders, bandits, came into the town to rob and plunder. But the old man, with his staff, was able to beat them away, single-handedly. The townspeople were so grateful to him, and they knew of the old man's wish to live out his final days in the Holy Land. So the people took up a collection for him to enable him to make the long journey to that holy place. And he set out in a wagon that would take him to the seaside, where he would catch the ship that would cross the ocean to take him to his destination. But on the way, the wagon lost a wheel. While the old man was waiting for the wheel to be repaired, he noticed a small hill nearby, and he decided to climb that hill to pass the time. When he came to the top of the hill, there was a great tree, and even though it was springtime, the tree stood without leaves, seeming to have no life. The old man looked up at the tree, feeling some compassion, wondering if its life had ebbed away from it. But as he looked, he noticed that there was a jagged, broken branch, a broken limb. He took his staff, he raised it up, and immediately the staff joined the jagged break in the branch. As he stood and watched, the tree burst out in bloom. Leaves appeared abundantly, covering the whole of the tree. He walked down to join the wagon, which took him to the ocean, and the ship, which carried him across to the great land of Israel. And there, as he stood by the wailing wall, a leaf landed at his feet. He picked it up, and he knew this leaf was from the tree which had bloomed when his staff had been returned to its rightful place. He lived long, long and fruitful life, carrying with him always the leaf from the tree. What is this symbol of the staff for us? What does it represent? And like the questions asked on our first evening, how does it relate to that saying of St. John, after the completion of the last dark night of the soul, the last death, bringing us an absence of illusion? What is the meaning of his words when all in the house were asleep? I went forth. These stories are in our heart, being stirred by that which surrounds us, penetrates us here. Let them do their work in their own way. No need for machinations of our minds to reach an understanding of their meaning.